Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel, and in this video, I'm going to give you my top starts of the week for week 5 of the 2023 fantasy football season. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more fantasy football advice. And with that being said, let's get right into it. We're going to start with the quarterback position, where my first QB start of the week is Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. They go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. I'm not saying Jordan Love is a first ballot Hall of Famer by any means, and he has had some reasons to question if he is truly, an elite quarterback, to say the least. But for fantasy, he has been getting it done. And in week 5, he gets to take on the Las Vegas Raiders, who are a phenomenal matchup for quarterbacks. He's not completing a great percentage of his throws, and his touchdown rate that he was showing to start the year has come down, and we all knew that that wasn't sustainable. But still, even in a shellacking against the Detroit Lions, in garbage time, he was able to come back, put up some yardage, throw a touchdown, rush for a touchdown each of the last 2 weeks. He does sometimes get out there, 12, 23, and 39 yards. He does get out there on the ground sometimes. So he's been pretty solid for fantasy, and he gets to take on the Raiders, which I love. I am playing him over Joe Burrow this week in one of my own leagues, so I am bought into Jordan Love as a nice low quarterback one. Next up, I'm going to go with Tua of the Miami Dolphins as my next quarterback start of the week. This isn't really about the matchup. I'm not afraid of the New York Giants at all. But this just comes down to the player who's kind of been ping-ponging between elite performance and then kind of mediocre to not so good performance for fantasy. He was the QB1, then the 26, quarterback 2, then quarterback 18, according to the Fantasy Pro scoring format. And I'm not saying that week 5 he's going to go back to being the quarterback 1 or 2 overall in the week, but this offense is humming. They're putting up a ton of points. Sometimes the ball just happens to go to the running back position and they rush in a touchdown. Other times Tua throws it in. So unless you have one of those elite, like Mahomes, Josh Allen type of players, I am playing Tua as a nice middle quarterback one. And then my final quarterback start of the week is Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts. He has been amazing for fantasy, and I feel like some people might not quite understand how good he's been. So in week 1, in his first ever NFL game, this super freak athlete comes out, puts up 223 and 1 through the air, adds 40 yards on the ground, and rushes for a touchdown, is the quarterback 4 on the week. Then in week 2, against the Houston Texans, very early in that game, he has 2 rushing touchdowns, is on his way to an elite performance, and he gets injured and leaves the game early. He still had a solid game for fantasy before leaving, but if he would have stayed in that game, he would have, we probably better realize as a community how elite he is for fantasy. He was only 10 attempts into the day and 10 passing attempts, 3 rushing attempts into his game. Then he missed week 3, and then in week 4 against the Rams, he comes out as the quarterback 2 on the week, 200 through the air and a couple passing touchdowns, 56 on the ground and a rushing touchdown. He's had at least 1 rushing touchdown in every single game. So when he's been on the field, he's been incredible for fantasy, with his rushing especially. That provides a nice safe floor where he's going to get 30, 40, 50 plus yards, maybe a rushing touchdown. Plus, he's been putting up some yardage through the air, 200 plus yards in both of his full games, 1 and 2 passing touchdowns. And in week 5, he takes on the Tennessee Titans. I know they just shut down Joe Burrow and that Bengals offense, but everyone has been doing that. Okay, so I think something is wrong with the Bengals. I don't think it really speaks to how good the Titans defense is, because over the last couple seasons, the Titans defense has been very, very tremendous against running backs, but they give it up in the passing game. So I think Anthony Richardson can find success through the air, and he can also break out of the pocket and do what he does as one of the most athletic quarterbacks to ever touch an NFL field. So I really, really like Anthony Richardson, sort of like Tua, where if you don't have that elite option, he's pretty much a must start. We're going to move on to the running back position, and it is time to start talking about David Montgomery as a must start running back option in fantasy. 21, 16, and 32. Those are his rushing attempts on the ground in each of his 3 games that he has played. He missed week 3, comes back in week 4. A lot of people, myself included, thought, at some point Gibbs is going to get more involved, Jahmyr Gibbs. It isn't happening. He comes back right off of injury, gets 32 attempts on the ground, turns that into 121 and 3 on the ground. He even adds 2 for 20 through the air. The running back 2 on the week in week 4, 33.1 points in half PPR. And in weeks 1 and 2, 13.4 and 11.9. He is essentially a must start at this point. Week 5, he's also taking on the Carolina Panthers. That's a great matchup. And I think with the game script, the Lions will be leading, and they should be able to run the ball early and often until they're winding out the clock into the victory formation late in the game. So David Montgomery, he is a running back 1, and you need to get him in your lineup, especially in this matchup. Next up, I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. We're going to go with Breece Hall, running back of the New York Jets. Not a must-start option, but I have quite a few teams where with bye weeks and injuries and such, this is a guy that I would love to have on my team. I know it might not seem like a great play. In week 1, he had a big play, was the running back 9 on the week, had 15.2 points, and since then, 0.9, 3.2, 8.4 points in half PPR, and the opportunities just haven't really been there either. It's been ugly. The Jets came out and said they're done limiting him. He's going to get his full workload, which hopefully that is true, and it's not just coach speak, but he's also taking on the Denver Broncos. Breece Hall's specialty is explosive plays. The Broncos, they give up all sorts of plays. Big, small, medium, whatever, but they do give up a lot of big plays. And I think this is going to be the time where we start to see Breece Hall return to the Breece Hall that we know and love as one of the best running backs and the most explosive players in the league. If you can buy him on the cheap, I would also recommend doing that. So Breece Hall, I like him as a running back 2. It depends on your options, but if you're shooting for upside, I think this is a week where he could kind of pay off and have a big play. And hopefully we see that volume return to what we expected. Next up, we have another running back who's been not the most exciting for fantasy this year, and that's Joe Mixon, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals. 8.8, 11.5, 13.5, and 8.1 points in half PPR. You'll take that. Not good. Not great. Not bad. Just kind of in the middle. But in week 5 against the Arizona Cardinals, I think this will be a better Joe Mixon game than we've seen. He's had some tough matchups. The offense as a whole hasn't looked great, but even if the offense doesn't bounce back in general, I still think Joe Mixon in this matchup with the Cardinals will have a usable game for fantasy. I'm not benching him unless my roster is absolutely stacked. This is the same Cardinals team that just gave up 4 touchdowns to Christian McCaffrey last week. I'm not saying Joe Mixon is going to score 4 touchdowns, but I do like him a lot to have his best game of the year, hopefully get in the end zone. I like him as a nice low-end running back 1, high running back 2 in week 5 against the Cardinals. And we're bringing up Devon Achane. It used to be Achane. He came out and said it's Achane. Or Achane, now it's Achane. Devon Achane. Okay, we're going to talk about Devon Achane. I hope I continue to say that right throughout this segment. But the rookie, he's been phenomenal the last 2 weeks. Week 3 against the Denver Broncos defense that I said Breece Hall is taking on. So remember, explosive plays. 18 for 203, 2 touchdowns, 4 for 30 through the air, 2 receiving touchdowns, 4 total, almost 50 points in half PPR. Clearly the running back 1 on the week. They put up 70 points that week, by the way, just in case you forgot that was that game. And then the next week we're like, is it real? Was it just the defense? What was it? A much tougher matchup against the Bills. Not a ton of volume, 8 carries, 3 targets, turned that into 101 and 2 on the ground, 3 for 19 through the air, 25.5 points. In half PPR, and was the running back 4. I can see this kind of turning into a bit of a committee. You have Raheem Mostert as sort of like the lead back, I would still say, and Achane is right there. And they have some other players in the mix too, but with what he's showing with his explosiveness in this matchup against the Giants, I think you have to keep him in the lineup. There's really not many players I would start over him just with his upside. And I think you have to keep him out there. I would like to see his volume increase, but even his kind of player type isn't someone who's going to see a ton of volume, although he did see 18 carries in week 3, so maybe I'm wrong about that, but he doesn't need 20 plus carries to put up a good game. He just needs a big play, and I think he can exploit this matchup against the Giants. He is a low running back 1, high running back 2, but he has weak winning upside each and every time he's on the field. And then at the wide receiver position, I'm going to go with Michael Pittman Jr. of the Indianapolis Colts. He had a nice week 1, and then since then it's been a little bit rough. I do expect a bounce back performance. Even after week 1, he still had 56 and 77 yards the following 2 weeks with 12 and 11 targets, 8 and 9 receptions. Just no touchdown. Didn't have an extreme amount of yardage, but you're not gonna. If a guy has 60, 70 yards, it's not like, oh my god, he disappeared, right? Week 4, it was a bit more of a concern. 1 for 5, or 1 reception on 5 targets for 15 yards. All receivers have bad games once in a while. I think this is a great spot for Michael Pittman to bounce back. It's a great matchup. I know they just shut down the Bengals. It's kind of the same stuff I said about Anthony Richardson. I think they can exploit this secondary as pretty much every team but the dysfunctional Bengals have done and do. So I like Michael Pittman a lot this week as a wide receiver 2. Hopefully he gets in the end zone, but he should be targeted a lot in this game, and I think he's a pretty safe play, and hopefully he can get in the end zone and help you win your week. I'm going to talk about Sam LaPorta at the tight end position now of the Detroit Lions. I'm usually one of those people who is against rookie tight ends in fantasy putting up numbers, but I can't deny that Sam LaPorta is a thing any longer. 6.4, 8.8, 18.4, and 7.6. He was a top 12, top 11 tight end each of the first 3 weeks, and then last week in a down week, he was still the tight end 17, 4 for 56 through the air. He's seeing 5+ targets in every game, including week 3. He saw 11 targets, and I think the matchup against the Carolina Panthers doesn't scare me. Amon-Ra St. Brown, their star receiver, is doubtful in this game, so that could translate to more target security. Hopefully it's not the type of thing where the defense can focus on him more. But at this point, I'm just bringing him up because he's essentially a must-start tight end. Fantasy Pros has him ranked as the tight end 4 on the week, and I think that's probably about right. Like, unless you have like a Kelsey, Mark Andrews, maybe like a Hawkinson type of guy, I'm probably putting Sam LaPorta next on that list. So fire him up with full confidence. And if he has a bad game, that's all right. Most tight ends have bad games every once in a while. Just keep putting him out there. As long as he shows that he's a good player, because that's all he's done so far in his career. The next tight end start of the week is a scary one. It's Darren Waller. Listen, I make these videos not to tell you to start the obvious guys, but just to kind of provide an insight that maybe you're not thinking of or someone you might not want to start. And I think unless you have, an elite backup plan, I would stick with Darren Waller, even though he's been struggling lately in week 5 against the Miami Dolphins. If you have a reliable backup, and by reliable I mean like someone who you are confident in, like a LaPorta, Hawkinson, Andrews, Kittle, that type of guy, obviously don't play Waller over them. But if you're going to the waiver wire and trying to pick up some like scrub that you're hoping for a touchdown, and if he doesn't get in the end zone he's going to have like 30 yards, just stick with Waller. We know he's a great player. He had a ton of offseason hype. I really was bought into Darren Waller. I bid up for him a lot in our auction draft, and he was 6 for 76 in week 2, but other than that, it's been very disappointing. 36, 20, and 21 yards in each of the other games. I'm calling for a bounce back game. I think it's a squeaky wheel game. I think he can get loose against this defense, and we know that the Dolphins can put up points. So if Daniel Jones is able to sit in the pocket and deliver the ball to Darren Waller, I think they're going to be trailing. I think there's a chance for Darren Waller to have a bounce back game. He is one of the few tight ends in the entire NFL that can actually put up a big game. Okay, so you might be more secure with getting your 5 to 8 points out of someone else on the waiver wire. It's possible, but none of them can put up 15, 20 plus. And Darren Waller does have that ability. I think he does. We'll see. I think this is the week where he has his best game of the year. I'm calling for it. Start of the week, Darren Waller. Whew, all right, we got some exciting picks in this video. I'm hoping they work out. I'm kind of calling for a few bounce backs and, some big plays, exploiting some good matchups there. So we'll see what happens. But so far, I feel like we've done a pretty good job with our start of the week calls. And yeah, good luck in week 5, everybody. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.